I get it. I really do. When you're starting out, it can be incredibly frustrating. You've worked so hard to take your skills from something that was pretty rubbish and you wouldn't have shown anybody. You've developed that skill set. You've trained a lot. You put more work in than anybody you know, and you're finally quite proud of what you're doing, and all you want in the world is for as many eyeballs as possible to look at what you do, to affirm what you're doing, to tell you that yes, you're on the right track and you did a great job. And if this is what motivates you, and that drives you to train more and compete more and put more work in, I think that's fantastic. But if it creates more anxiety in you, if that gives you sleepless night, it's time to put that drive in the right box in your head. You may even have an expectation that if you get your work in front of the right people, that they'll see your huge talent and they'll throw time and energy and money at you to make you a success. But I don't think that's a reasonable expectation. I don't even know of an example of someone that happened to whom they were putting word out there and one person came to them and said, "Hey, here's a ton of money, get on a plane, come over, we'll pay you to train and teach or whatever." I just don't think it's a reasonable expectation of how things work. And we have to put that expectation in context. Everybody I know who made a success of a career in Jiu-Jitsu only did so because of hours and days and years of patience and work and putting themselves out there. I think that's the only reasonable way we can expect it will happen. For those of you who've been following this channel for a little while, you'll know some of my story, that my career as a tattoo artist and illustrator fell apart and I walked away. I had to start from scratch. So when I started on this jiu-jitsu path, it was really from the bottom with no connection and not much skills and just learning the know-how, because I'd only been doing it on the side before, and it actually meant that at 30 years old, I had to sell almost everything I owned. I had to move to a smaller apartment. I would walk or bike everywhere because I couldn't afford any other means of transportation. Hopefully, I had the support of some really good friends who helped me to get back on my feet. And I've slowly made my way forward. And let me be honest, I am no big deal. I mean, even after over 10 years of jiu-jitsu, I'm still not convinced that I can make this work. It's always a risk. I know how hard this is to hear, because you're just desperate for people to notice your work. You want success straight away, but someone has to be honest with you and see that a career as a martial artist, as an instructor, is very difficult. And it looks like it's getting more difficult. And I'm not saying that to discourage you. I'm saying that so, hopefully, you'll keep going and understand that this is a journey. It probably won't happen overnight. That you have to calibrate your expectations for the long term, and that anxiety that happened now will subside, so you can actually enjoy the journey. Let me give you some tough truth that I think will help you with that anxiety. Number one, your heroes are not as successful and bulletproof as you think they are. I think we're always taught that when we communicate online, when we make a video, when we get interviewed, or when we write a blog post, that we have to sound successful and sound like our inbox is just filled with offers from people who wanted to work with us. It's what we're taught to do and how we are taught to market ourselves in today's society. But you'd be surprised about how many big names professionals are struggling right now. Let alone little guys like me who are worried about if work will keep coming in. How am I going to make it to the end of the year? What is my plan going forward? Because the martial art industry is changing so fast, it's not as easy as they make it look. Number 2, everybody is busy worrying about themselves, even the big guys. I know the temptation is to just keep contacting people who look successful and show them what you can do and ask them to help you so that you can be successful yourself. And I'll be honest with you, I did the exact same thing. When I made the decision to become an instructor, I contacted some BJJ academies around my city. And I thought if I could only get a hold of one of them and I can get in as, let's say, an assistant, maybe, just maybe, they can give me some money as a job and I can learn from them and it'd be great. So I sent them emails. I put a link to some of my competition footage at the time and I asked, hey, can I come over and work? And in the back of my head, I thought that was a serious request. Of course they'd be able to do that and that will be my way in. And I got one single email back not too long afterwards. And it was very, very kind, but basically it said, no. Now looking back, obviously not. They probably have their own ways and their own things to sort out. They all have their own students pool to pick from for an assistant. And my skills at the time were crap, it's just that I couldn't see it. And because I wanted a shortcut, I had gone to those guys hoping they could give it to me. It's only recently that I've had people starting to contact me and say, hey, you know, I'll come over. You can pay me and I'll learn a lot. It'll be great. It's a two-way relationship. And I don't know what I'm doing to present the wrong picture, but I'm not a successful guy with a successful business. I'm one guy who is teaching BJJ in various academies and hoping that for the next few years I can just keep my head above water. I think YouTube and social media in general gives the wrong impression that if people are following me online, it means that I have a successful business. But my experience is that followers on YouTube or Instagram do not translate into business, or they certainly haven't for me yet. We're just all struggling along with other instructors and martial artists in a fast-changing industry. We are all worried about how we're going to make this work, and very, very few are making a huge success of it. So if you're starting out teaching Jiu-Jitsu, the truth is that you and I are far more in the same boat that you think. Number 3 is, if success and notoriety is your goal, no amount of money or attention will ever be enough. I mean, how much money is enough? How many students will you have before you'll say I'm making a success of what I do? How many followers on Instagram or how many subs on YouTube is enough for you to go, I am now a success at what I do. I can relax. I've made it. I've crossed some kind of invisible line. Because I promise you this, when you reach those goals that you set for yourself, another goal will be staring you in the face probably before you even get there. When you get to those 10,000 subs on YouTube, let's say, that seem impossible to reach. 100,000 is going to be the next goal, and it will be a long way off, and you won't be happy to reach that. But when you do, there's 1 million subs, and there's 10 million subs, so none of those things will make you happy. And if you're constantly chasing success or money or attention, your heart is going to suffer. And number 4, if you don't deal with your need for attention and affirmation, you may lose your heart altogether. I'm going to be really straight with you here. If you find that anxiety to succeed and to be successful straight away is keeping you up at night, it might be time to go speak to somebody. I mean, I had to dig deep inside of myself for years as I battled my insecurities. And this was one of the issues that came up, and it was great to be able to talk that through with the people I trust, to work out where my needs for approval come from. and to put that into perspective in my head and then get back to work, because the need to have your work appreciated, it is a good need. There's nothing wrong with that. But when it's over-calibrated, when it's too emotionally charged, when it saps you of your energy, it will cause you to lose your way if you don't deal with it. What I will say is this: do not miss the journey. All of the struggling and fighting and wrestling at the beginning is a big part of the story that's going to make up your life. When I watch interviews with actors, the most interesting parts of their story is often when they were going around from audition to audition at the beginning of their career. And they were failing and struggling and fighting, and all the things they were learning along the way that made them who they are today. Stand-up comics are the same. They'll talk fondly of the days that they had to go to multiple clubs on the same night and do these sets where they were paid very, very little. But they were on a buzz, and all that training and fighting and struggling with little sleeps and lots of frustration made them who they are today. And it's the same for jiu-jitsu instructors. It's so interesting hearing stories about instructors that started out with very little students and they struggled for years, but in those early years there was something pure about their work because they were fighting for every little inch of it. The question you have to ask yourself is, and I ask myself this regularly, is if the notoriety I have today and the success I have today is as good as it gets. It never ever get better than this. From here, it just goes downhill. Would I keep doing this thing that I love? Do you actually love to teach jiu-jitsu? Do you love to train? Do you love waking up early to coach alongside your team? Do you love to deal with the highs and lows of competition? Do you love to clean the gym every day, or whatever it is that you do? Do you love it? Does it fire you up? And if you never get more successful than you are today, would you keep doing it because you love the martial art itself? Because if you do, that will give you the energy to keep doing what you do into the future. Because the art form itself is its own reward. And if you find a huge success one day, it will just be the byproduct of doing what you absolutely love.